Universal technology networks feature human inventions because they change everything. Part 1. The Grand Hall stretched for miles, its ceiling lost somewhere in the artificial sky above. Delegates from 3,000 civilizations filled the space, each representing worlds that had mastered space travel long before Earth's first cities were built. The air hummed with translation fields, turning countless languages into something each species could understand. Hex adjusted his ceremonial robes and looked at the schedule displayed in his neural implant. As chairman of the Galactic Technology Council, he had presided over 12 of these millennial showcases. Each time, the greatest minds in the galaxy gathered to share their achievements. Each time, civilizations tried to outdo one another with impossible wonders. This year's presentations had already been spectacular. The hive minds had demonstrated instant communication across the entire galaxy, with no delay whatsoever. Not faster-than-light communication, but truly instant, as if distance meant nothing at all. The crystalline had shown machines that could create any object by rearranging atoms, duplicating even the most complex technology perfectly. The ancient, who had been traveling between stars when humans were still fish, unveiled a device that could fold space like paper. Hex found it all somewhat boring, if he was honest with himself. Every millennium, the same old species showed off incremental improvements to technologies they had perfected ages ago. They had been working on their quantum communication for 10,000 years. They had been refining their replicators for 50,000. Nothing truly new ever appeared. He glanced at the next item on the schedule and his three eyes narrowed. Humanity. Earth. That tiny blue world that had only achieved faster-than-light travel 280 years ago. They had submitted a request to present, and some junior administrator had approved it without consulting him. "Remove them from the schedule," Hex said to his assistant, a young with pale green scales. "Sir, they've already arrived. They've been waiting for 3 hours." Hex sighed, a sound that came out as a melodic whistle through his speaking vents. The Universal Technology Network was broadcasting this event to trillions of viewers across the galaxy. What would humanity possibly have to show? Primitive rockets, computers that still used electricity. The thought was embarrassing. "Fine, give them 5 minutes. Put them after the lunch break when viewership is lowest." The assistant nodded and away. Hex returned his attention to the presentation, trying to look interested as they explained mathematics that would take him decades to understand. 3 hours later, after a meal of protein synthesized to his species' exact nutritional needs, Hex reluctantly returned to the hall. He noticed that it was only half full now. Most delegates had stayed in the dining areas, networking and making deals. The Universal Technology Network's viewership numbers appeared in his implant, showing that 87% of viewers had switched to other channels. A human walked onto the stage. She was small by galactic standards, barely reaching the height of Hex's chest. Her skin was brown, her hair black and pulled back in a simple style. She wore a plain gray suit, nothing like the elaborate displays of wealth and status that other presenters favored. She carried no equipment, no demonstration devices, no holographic projectors. "Good afternoon," she said, and the translation field made her words understandable to all present. "My name is Dr. Sarah. I'm here from Earth." A few delegates shifted in their seats. Hex checked the time display in his implant. 5 minutes. He would give her exactly 5 minutes. "I know what you're thinking," Sarah continued, and she actually smiled. "What could we possibly show you? You've been traveling the stars for millions of years while we've barely left our own solar system. Your technology looks like magic to us. We have nothing you don't already have, and what we do have is primitive by your standards." At least she was self-aware, Hex thought. "So I'm not going to show you a device," Sarah said. "I'm going to show you a process." She waved her hand and a simple hologram appeared. It showed a cycle of 4 steps: observe, question, test, analyze. The word scientific method floated above it in glowing letters. Hex felt his interest dying already. Every species had systematic ways of learning. This was nothing new. Every species here uses science, Sarah said, as if reading his thoughts. But I want to tell you about something we do differently. On Earth, we have 8 billion people. We have hundreds of countries, thousands of cultures, and millions of scientists. And here's the thing, we don't all agree. A few delegates made sound that the translation field interpreted as confusion. When a human scientist makes a discovery, they publish it. They share it with everyone. Then other scientists try to prove them wrong. They attack the idea from every angle, looking for mistakes, testing it in new ways. If the idea survives, it gets stronger. If it fails, we learn from the failure and try something new. This is basic peer review, a delegate said, their voice harmonizing with itself as multiple minds spoke as one. All civilizations do this. Yes, Sarah agreed, but how long does your peer review take? 20 years on average, to thoroughly verify a significant discovery. Ours takes months, sometimes weeks. Sarah's smile grew wider. Because we're in a hurry, we're competing with each other. Every university, every laboratory, every company wants to be first. They want the glory, the patents, the recognition, so they work fast. Rushed work leads to errors, a delegate said, their crystalline body refracting light as they spoke. Yes, it does. We make mistakes all the time, but here's what we do with those mistakes. We share them too. Sarah waved her hand again, and the hologram changed to show a vast network of connections. We have something called open source development. When someone creates something new, they give away the blueprints, free, no cost. Anyone can use it, modify it, improve it. The hall went silent. Hex found himself leaning forward despite his intention to remain aloof. Why? A delegate asked. Why would you give away an advantage? Because 10,000 people improving your idea is better than one person keeping it secret, Sarah said simply. We realize something that maybe you've forgotten after millions of years of stability. Progress isn't about being the best. It's about making everyone better as fast as possible. She brought up another hologram, this one showing graphs. In the last 300 years since we achieved our industrial revolution, humanity has gone from horse-drawn carriages to faster-than-light travel. 300 years. I've looked at your histories. Most species take 10,000 years to make that same journey. Some take 50,000. You're young and reckless, a delegate said, their ancient voice carrying the weight of. You burn bright and fast, but it's not sustainable. You'll destroy yourselves. Maybe, Sarah admitted. We've come close a few times, but we're still here. And I want to tell you why we're really here today. It's not to show off. It's to ask a question. Hex found his 3 eyes all focused on the human now. Around the hall, delegates who had been preparing to leave were settling back into their seats. What if you're stuck? Sarah asked. I've read about your civilizations. They have been working on quantum communication for 10,000 years. They have been refining molecular replication for 50,000. They have technologies that haven't changed in 1,000,000 years. You're not advancing anymore. You're just maintaining. What if we could help you remember how to be fast again? Preposterous, a primacy delegate said. The primacy were the oldest species in the galaxy, so ancient that they claim to have witnessed the formation of the galactic core. We have achieved optimal efficiency. Change for its own sake is purposeless. Is it? Sarah asked. Or is change how you survive? She paused, letting the question hang in the air. I'm going to leave you with something. We call it open source access. Everything humanity has discovered, every technology we've developed, every technique we use, it's all in our databases. We're uploading it to the universal network right now. Free. No restrictions. Anyone can download it, study it, use it, improve it. Hex felt a chill run through his body. She was giving it all away. Every patent, every secret, every advantage humanity had. We're doing this because we believe in something, Sarah said quietly. We believe that a galaxy that works together grows faster than one where everyone hoards their knowledge. We believe that competition and cooperation aren't opposites, they're partners. And we believe that if we're ever going to solve the big problems, the ones that threaten all of us, we need to learn from each other. She bowed, a simple human gesture of respect. Thank you for your time. The hall was silent as she walked off the stage. Hex sat frozen, his mind racing. His implant showed that viewership had actually climbed during her presentation. 43% of the galaxy had tuned back in. Then something happened that had never occurred in all of Hex's years leading the council. Someone started a slow clap, a human gesture by alien hands. It spread through the hall, growing louder. Hex looked at his assistant. Get me everything they uploaded. I want our best analysts studying it. Yes, sir, there's already a queue forming. A queue. 17 species have submitted requests to collaborate with humanity. The number is increasing every minute. Hex leaned back in his chair and watched the empty stage. 5 minutes. He had given them 5 minutes. And in that time, the small, primitive humans had done something nobody had managed in millions of years. They had made the galaxy curious again. Part 2. The message arrived 3 galactic standard years after Sarah's presentation, and it changed everything. Hex was reviewing quarterly reports when his implant chimed with an urgent priority tag. He opened it, expecting another administrative issue. Instead, he found himself looking at data that made no sense. The ancient hive minds who had perfected quantum communication over 10 had just announced a breakthrough. They had improved their technology by 300%, 300%, in 3 years. Hex immediately called for an emergency council meeting. 2 days later, the council chambers filled with confused delegates. Hex brought up the data on the main display, and the room erupted in overlapping speech that the translation field struggled to parse. Impossible, said the delegate. The reached optimal efficiency 40,000 years ago. There was no room for improvement. Apparently there was, Hex said dryly. They found it. How? Demanded a primacy delegate, their ancient face showing something that might have been concern or might have been anger. A delegate stood, their body moving with the eerie synchronization of 1,000 minds acting as one. We will explain, they said in their harmonized voice. 3 years ago, we did something we had never done before. We argued with ourselves. The room went quiet. In our species, consensus is everything, they continued. When all minds agree, we move forward. When we disagree, we wait until harmony is restored. This process has served us for 1,000,000 years, but the human doctor showed us something different. She showed us that disagreement could be productive. This body shifted, a sign of what might have been embarrassment. We created what we call disagreement protocols. We deliberately separated our hive minds into groups and had them attack each other's ideas. It was uncomfortable, painful even, but it worked. In 3 years of controlled conflict, we discovered improvements that had eluded us for 10,000 years of harmony. Hex felt his breathing vents constrict. He pulled up more data, and what he saw stunned him. It wasn't just the peaceful herbivores who lived in perfect harmony on their garden worlds had established their first competitive innovation contests. They called it friendly rivalry. And within 18 months, they had solved an energy crisis that had plagued them for 3 centuries. They had begun sharing their molecular replication technology openly, allowing other species to suggest modifications. In 2 years, they had received over 10 million suggestions. 300,000 of them actually worked. Their replicators could now create things they had never imagined. Even the reclusive, who hadn't shared technology with outsiders in 50,000 years, had opened their borders and invited human advisors to visit. "What have we done?" whispered a delegate. "We've started changing," Hex said quietly. The data kept coming. Across the galaxy, species were adopting human methods. The Universal Technology Network, which had been a showcase for static achievements, transformed into something alive and dynamic. The most-watched program was no longer the Millennial Showcase. It was a human-created show called Human Solutions. The format was simple. Species presented their unsolvable problems, and humans suggested approaches. The humans weren't always right, and their suggestions often seemed absurd, but something about their different perspective helped others see problems in new ways. Hex watched an episode in his office late one night. A massive structure, a crystalline habitat housing billions, was failing. Microscopic fractures had appeared throughout its structure. They had spent 200 years trying to find a way to repair it from within, sealing each crack as they found it. But the fractures spread faster than they could fix them. The human engineer on the show, a cheerful woman named Maria, had listened to the problem and then asked a question that stunned everyone. Why repair it? Why not tear it down and build it better? The delegate had been horrified. We have lived in this structure for 10,000 years. It is our history. Then preserve the pieces that matter most, Maria had said. But don't let history trap you. Controlled demolition. Take it apart section by section. Study what failed. Rebuild with those lessons learned. You'll lose the old structure, but you'll gain something better, understanding. They had considered it an insult. But 6 months later, they began the deconstruction. And they found that the process of taking apart their ancient habitat taught them more about crystalline engineering than they had learned in the previous millennium. Hex turned off the display and stared out his window at the stars. Change was spreading like a virus across the galaxy, and for the first time in his long life, he didn't know if that was good or bad. The answer came in the form of opposition. The primacy called for an emergency session of the High Council, a gathering of the galaxy's oldest and most powerful civilizations. Hex was invited as an observer, which meant he could watch but not speak. The primacy's eldest representative, a being so ancient that its species name had been forgotten, floated at the center of the chamber. Its body was little more than energy contained in a failing shell, but its voice carried the weight of epochs. We have maintained galactic stability for 6 million years, it said. We have prevented wars, maintained peace, and ensured that no species threatens the balance we have carefully constructed. The humans are destroying that balance. They have started no wars, someone objected. They are starting something worse, a revolution of thought. The ancient being pulsed with cold light. Species that were content are now restless. Technologies that were stable are being torn apart and rebuilt. The humans call it progress. We call it chaos. What do you propose? Asked another primacy member. Quarantine. Earth and all human colonies will be isolated. No contact, no communication. We will contain their influence before it spreads further. It has already spread, Hex said, forgetting he wasn't supposed to speak. All eyes turned to him. 3 years. In just 3 years, human methods have reached every corner of the galaxy. You cannot contain an idea whose time has come. Then we will make it illegal, the Ancient One said coldly. The High Council will pass an edict. Any species that continues to use human innovation methods will face sanctions, trade restrictions, technology embargoes. We will make the cost of change too high to bear. You would punish progress, Hex asked, shocked. We would preserve order. The vote was called. Hex watched helplessly as the oldest species in the galaxy voted to suppress humanity's gift. The measure passed. Human methods would be banned. Earth would be quarantined. The Universal Technology Network would be censored to remove human content. Hex left the chamber feeling older than he had ever felt before. He had lived through 3,000 years of galactic history, and this was the first time he had seen the ancient powers frightened. That was when he realized something important. The primacy wasn't afraid of human technology. They were afraid of becoming obsolete. He returned to his office and found a message waiting. It was from Sarah, who was now old by human standards, her hair white instead of black. "Chairman Hex," she said in the recording, "I heard about the vote. I want you to know that we understand. Change is frightening, especially for those who have the most to lose. But I also want you to know this. You can't stop an idea whose time has come. The galaxy has remembered how to grow. Whatever the primacy decides, that won't change." She smiled, the same gentle smile she had worn on that stage 3 years ago. "We'll wait, however long it takes. When you're ready, we'll still be here, ready to share." Hex turned off the message and sat in the darkness of his office. Outside his window, the stars shone steadily, unchanging. But he knew that wasn't true anymore. Nothing was unchanging, not now. The galaxy had learned to dream again, and dreams, once planted, cannot be uprooted. Part 3. The alarm came from the galactic core at 3:47 Galactic Standard Time, 17 years after the primacy had banned human methods. Hex was very old now, his ceremonial robes hanging loosely on his thinning frame. He had remained chairman of the Galactic Technology Council through sheer stubbornness, even as the galaxy had split into two camps, those who secretly continued using human methods and those who publicly obeyed the primacy's ban. The alarm woke him from sleep. His implant screamed danger signals directly into his mind. He activated the message and felt his 3 hearts skip a beat. The ancient defense network at the galactic core, dormant for 2 million years, had come alive. Something had triggered it, something bad. By the time he reached the emergency command center, hundreds of delegates had already gathered. The main display showed sensor readings from the core, and what Hex saw made his blood run cold. Ships, millions of them, but not ships in any traditional sense. These were machines, self-replicating swarms that consumed matter and made more of themselves. They were spreading outward from the core like a plague, and every technology thrown at them failed. The primacy had encountered them instantly. Their weapons, unchanged for 1 million years, were perfect and powerful. The swarms adapted to them in minutes and continued spreading. The primacy had lost 17 worlds in the first hour. "How is this possible?" someone asked. An ancient primacy member appeared on the display, and Hex was shocked to see fear in its energy matrix. "They are learning machines," it said. "Ancient weapons from a war so old we had forgotten it happened. They were supposed to be dead. They adapt to any threat they've seen before, and they've seen everything we have." The swarms were spreading at terrifying speed. Projections showed they would reach the galaxy's outer arms in 6 months. Trillions would die. "We need solutions," Hex said, forcing his voice to remain steady. "Contact every species, every expert, every—" "Contact the humans," someone said. It was a young, one of the hive minds that had embraced human methods despite the ban. "They're the only ones who might know what to do, because their strength isn't superior technology. It's that they do things that have never been done before." The primacy member on the display started to object, then stopped. Hex could see the calculation happening behind those ancient eyes. Pride or survival. The choice was stark. "Contact them," the ancient one finally said. The message reached Earth within hours. Sarah was 87 years old now, her body frail but her mind sharp. She appeared on the display from her retirement home, wearing a simple cardigan over a white shirt. "Dr. Hex said, the galaxy needs your help." She listened to the explanation, her expression growing serious. "Show me the data," she said. For 6 hours, Sarah studied the information, consulting with other human experts through her own network. The rest of the galaxy waited, watching the swarm spread. 3 more primacy worlds fell. Finally, Sarah came back online. "I think I understand the problem," she said. "These machines were built to counter known threats. Every technology in your databases is a known threat. They've been around for millions of years. The swarms have seen it all. So we're doomed. asked the delegate. No, Sarah said, and she actually smiled. You're not doomed. You're stuck in old patterns. These machines can't counter what they've never seen. They can't adapt to true innovation. You need to hit them with something completely new. We don't have time to develop new weapons, the primacy member said. They'll be here in months. You already have everything you need, Sarah said. You just need to use it differently. You need chaos, unpredictability. You need to try 1,000 things they've never encountered and see what works. That's not a strategy, someone objected. That's random guessing. No, Sarah said firmly. It's creativity. It's improvisation. It's the one thing these machines can't counter because there's no pattern to adapt to. Look, these swarms expect optimal, perfect responses. Give them messy, weird, experimental ones instead. She laid out a plan that made no tactical sense and broke every rule of conventional warfare. It involved combining technologies that were never meant to work together, deliberately creating instabilities, and using failure as a weapon. This is madness, a delegate said. Maybe, Sarah agreed, but it's never been tried before, and that's exactly why it might work. The primacy member was silent for a long moment. Then, begin implementation. All species are hereby authorized to use any methods necessary. The ban on human techniques is suspended. The galaxy mobilized faster than Hex had ever seen. Human advisors spread across every military command. They brought with them something the galaxy had forgotten, the willingness to try something that might not work. The fleet that assembled was unlike anything in galactic history. It combined primacy weapons that were millions of years old with communication that had been improved through human-style debate. Replicators, modified through open-source collaboration, created ammunition that had never existed before. Energy systems, optimized through competition, powered shields that flickered and shifted unpredictably. And humans provided the tactics, controlled chaos. The battle occurred in empty space between the core and the inhabited arms. Hex watched from the command center as the fleet engaged the swarms. The first wave of attacks followed traditional patterns. The swarms adapted and continued advancing. Then the human advisors began implementing their unconventional strategies. A wing of ships deliberately overloaded their reactors, creating energy pulses that served no tactical purpose. The swarms didn't know how to respond because there was nothing to counter. While they analyzed the useless explosions, other ships hit them with weapons that combined 3 incompatible technologies that shouldn't have worked together but somehow did. When the swarms adapted to that, the fleet switched tactics completely. They used replicators to create debris fields of random materials. They broadcast meaningless signals on every frequency. They fired weapons with intentionally terrible aim that ricocheted unpredictably. It was messy. It was inefficient. Ships were destroyed by their own experimental weapons. Tactics failed more often than they succeeded. It was everything the galaxy had spent millions of years trying to avoid. And it worked. The swarms, built to counter optimal strategies, couldn't handle suboptimal ones. They couldn't adapt to tactics that changed every few minutes. They couldn't predict what would happen when someone tried something that had never been tried before. The battle lasted 72 hours. When it ended, the swarms were contained. Not destroyed, nobody knew how to destroy them, but driven back to the core and sealed behind a barrier of constantly shifting technologies that would take centuries to analyze. The galaxy had survived. In the aftermath, Hex stood before the council chambers, preparing to address the trillions watching on the Universal Technology Network. He was exhausted, his body aching, but he felt something he hadn't felt in centuries: hope. Today the galaxy learned something important, he said. Stability is not strength. Perfection is not safety. Sometimes the best solution is the messy one. Sometimes progress means breaking things. And sometimes the voice in the room has the most important thing to say. He paused, looking directly at the camera. The primacy's ban on human methods is hereby permanently lifted. More than that, it is reversed. From this day forward, all species are encouraged to establish innovation centers based on human models. Competition and cooperation will both be valued. Change will be celebrated, not feared. The response from across the galaxy was instantaneous, trillions of voices joining in approval. Sarah's face appeared on a side display. She looked tired but satisfied. "Chairman Hex," she said, "would you like to know the real secret?" "Please." Change isn't something you achieve once and then you're done. It's something you choose every single day. The moment you decide you're finished learning, you start dying. Keep choosing growth. Keep choosing to be uncomfortable. Keep trying new things. That's how you stay alive. Hex nodded slowly. "We will remember." "Good," Sarah said. She smiled one last time. "Because we're just getting started. Wait until you see what we come up with next." The transmission ended. Hex looked around the chamber at the delegates from 3,000 species, all of them changed by humanity's gift. Not conquered, not dominated, changed. And somewhere on Earth, a young human child looked up at the stars, dreaming of what she might discover someday. She didn't know that her species had saved the galaxy. She only knew that anything was possible. And in a galaxy that had learned to dream again, she was right.